Now, the Peter Principle was big in the 70s when I was growing up. Written by a guy called Lawrence Peter. I remember hearing about it all the time. It was a big bestseller. He was an economist or something, or a management guy, or whatever the fuck. The Peter Principle was very influential and very important because it's very true. And it's the notion that people rise to their level of incompetence. Now, what do I mean? You have a job. Say you're at McDonald's, and you're just like starting out at McDonald's, you know, working minimum wage or whatever the hell. And you're good at it. So you rise up to, say, you know, like shift manager, and you're good at that, and you rise up to, you know, like a restaurant manager, and then maybe you rise up to the level of supervising 3 or 4 McDonald's, and you hit that level and you're not good at it. Okay, you've risen to your level of incompetence. You were good at managing, you know, like a shift, and you were good at managing, you know, one McDonald's restaurant. But when you rose to manage several McDonald's restaurants, you just weren't good at it. You'd risen up to your level of incompetence. You were no longer able to fulfill the duties expected of you, right? And the insight that Lawrence Peter pointed out with his Peter Principle is that most corporations, they'll leave you at that high level. They won't give you additional training so that you become capable at whatever position you're at, and they won't bring you down a step. Because, you know, it's an ego thing. Because nobody wants to get a promotion and be there for 2, 3, 4 months and then get a demotion because it turned out that they weren't any good at the position now, right? Right, because we have our ego, we have our sense of self. We don't want to be demoted. We don't want to seem less capable than we think that we are, right? Right. Now, this happens to everybody. Everybody rises to their level of incompetence. And think about it from a logical perspective. It's quite obvious. You're a young guy, right? You're a young guy and you're very good at a number of things, but you're not good at everything, right? No, of course not. It's impossible. You cannot be the fastest runner, the best student, the most popular kid in high school, right? And once you're out of high school and you're out in the world, you cannot be the best thing at everything. You can't be the best cook, the best mechanic, the best this, that, the other. No, it's impossible. Because first of all, you are just one guy and there are an infinite number of things that you could possibly do. So it's impossible to be good at everything. And it's impossible to continuously be good at the things that you are good at. There is a limit to how good you can get at something. Think about it like running. You're a runner and say that you can run the 100 yards or the 100 meters in like, I don't know, 10 seconds. And so you practice and you practice and you practice. You can run 9.9, for instance. That's incredibly fast, but there's somebody better. There's somebody who can run it at 9.8, 9.7 or whatever the hell. Yeah, you've risen to your level of incompetence. You've reached your limits. Now, this is important. Reaching your limits, you always want to be humble and realistic when you reach your limits. Because there's no sin in it. There's no shame in it. There's no problem with you getting to a point where you're just not capable anymore. Because it happens to everybody in everything, okay? I mean, shit, like Einstein, you know, he couldn't figure out unified field equations, right? And he broke his skull over this issue for the last 2, 3, 4 decades of his life, and he came to no solution, okay? He had reached his level of incompetence, and that's fucking Einstein, right? You know, supposedly the smartest man ever. Whether that's true or not, it's not the point. The point is, see, everybody gets to that level, okay? So you have to handle it. And that's the important thing here. How do you handle your incompetence? Well, first of all, you have to be paying attention to how you're doing in a given environment. And it's usually fairly easy to tell when you're hacking it and when you're not. I mean, you can always tell when you're doing real good, when you're going gangbusters and everything's going your way. You know, your numbers are up, your reputation grows. I mean, you just feel it all around you. And it's like a wave that carries you forward, and you're just working away and you're doing real good and everybody knows it, and you can see it by the quantitative measures, and you can hear it by the praise that you're getting from the people around you. I mean, yeah, everything is going great guns. And then when you hit that trough, when you start to bump up against your limitations, right, you realize it. You're going to realize it real quick. And you have to prepare yourself and not panic. That's the key issue. Okay, you start bumping up against your limitations, bumping up against your ceiling, reaching, you know, the Peter Principle, reaching your level of incompetence. And you have to be humble. This is hard. This is the hard part. You see, you've been doing real good, and that's why you've been rising up. In the company or school or whatever the fuck. And once you start getting into that area where you're bumping up against your limitations, reaching your level of incompetence, well, before that, you're going to feel full of pride because of your accomplishments, right? So it's going to be very hard to emotionally do the 180 of flipping your pride into humility. It's very difficult. It's extremely difficult, as a matter of fact. And better men than you and I have been done in by their pride once they reach their level of incompetence. But that's the thing you have to do. You have to stop when you feel, when you sense by the numbers and by what other people are saying or what you yourself feel that you're bumping up and getting into that level of incompetence. You have to stop and be humble and say, can I hack it? Can I hack this? And if hand to heart you realize that you cannot hack it, then you have to start asking yourself some tough questions now, don't you? Right. You've better fucking ask yourself the questions, because if you don't ask those questions of yourself right then and there when you realize this, other people soon enough will start to question you, and it'll hurt you more. So once you reach your level of incompetence, what you have to ask yourself is, I have reached my level of incompetence. Can I become more competent and handle this situation in a competent manner? Is there a way to train myself or to learn so that I can manage it? You see what I'm saying? If there is a way, then by all means, go ahead, do it, train, learn, get a teacher, a tutor, or whatever. I mean, like, for instance, say you're really good at math. I was exceptionally good at math. I was just a breeze for me. Algebra, logarithms, the whole thing. I just found it just easy peasy, right? But then I got to pre-calc, and then I started bumping up against my limitations, okay? And I needed a tutor, and I needed somebody to help me out. And once I got that tutor, I surpassed my level of incompetence and you know, just galloped forward, because it was sort of like a weird thing, because once I got this tutor to help me out with pre-calc and sort of like fix my head as to how to approach the material, well, pre-calc was a breeze, and then calc was just like, geez, it was like eating White Castle cheeseburgers every fucking day. It was great. I loved going to calculus because it was fun, because I wasn't afraid of it, because I'd learned the tools to overcome my previous level of incompetence. And that's the point I want to make. See, a lot of times you'll bump up into a level of incompetence that it will be more like an obstacle, okay? And once you surpass this obstacle, there'll be clear running ahead of you. The Peter Principle gave this notion that, you know, you'd rise, and hit your level of incompetence, and that was it. That's as good as it got for you, okay? But in my experience, the experience of a 50-year-old man who's seen enough, it's more like obstacles. Your level of incompetence is sort of like obstacles that sometimes you can clear them and sometimes you can't quite, and you need a little help. And a lot of times that help is easily available. But you have to have the humility to ask for that help. If you're not asking for the help, nobody's going to help you. And everybody's going to look at you as you fail, as you continue to fail because you're not able to overcome the obstacle. You see? And see, a lot of guys fail here. Like, for instance, there's a very big YouTuber, right? I'm not going to even mention his name because you probably know him. He's a guy who's got almost 1 million subscribers, right? And he built a big name for himself, a big reputation. And, well, how do you think he got there? Because he worked like a dog. He worked really hard to gain his subscriber count, to gain that viewership. He would produce content, you know, quality content, or at least the content that the people wanted to see from him. He worked and worked and worked, and he rose and rose and rose, and he got to a position where he thought he could reach for more. And he couldn't, because he didn't have the temperament for it. Okay? And because he didn't have the temperament for it, he didn't have the temperament to go into politics, because that's what he really wants. He wants to have political power. And he thinks that he can achieve political power, but he just doesn't have the temperament for it. Yeah? Like, for instance, me, I don't have the temperament for politics, but I know that. Would I enjoy having political power? Sure, it'd be fun to boss people around and be like a big wheel. Sure. But I don't have that temperament. I don't have that diplomacy. I don't have that self-control and that diplomatic mindset that you need to be a successful politician. Okay, there's a reason that people consider politicians slick, because they are slick. They need to be slick. in order to appeal to everybody and not alienate others. But this man that I'm referring to, he reached his level of incompetence and he lacks the humility to recognize it. And because he lacks the humility to recognize it, he is lashing out at everybody and he's causing a big mess. And the funny thing is that because of his lack of humility, he is going to destroy everything that he has built. He's already doing it. He's well on his way to destroying his reputation, to making an utter fool of himself. And see, here's the thing. You can make a mistake and people get over it and forgive you. But making a complete and utter ass of yourself, people never forget. They laugh at you when they think that you're a complete and utter imbecile. When they say, you know, what have you done, you fool? Well, you know, ridicule is forever. Yeah. And he's placed himself all on his own in a position of complete and utter ridicule because his rage at his own incompetence, his inability to be humble and recognize that he had just bumped up against his limitations and he needed to either change or simply accept the fact that he could not reach the goals that he wanted to reach. Well, that arrogance is leading to his downfall. That arrogance is leading to his destruction. And it'll end in the destruction of everything that he's created. And not only in his professional life, in his personal life as well. You'll see it. It's probably already happening now. I mean, I'm not keeping tabs on the guy's personal life. But yeah, you can tell that it's not just the professional life, it's the personal life, it's familial relationships, friendships. They're all going down the tubes because he reached for something, for a goal that was just a little bit outside of his grasp, and he refused to acknowledge his limitations. See? Don't be like that. Don't be stupid like that. Don't destroy everything that you've built because of your arrogance, your ego, your need to be perceived as the best or the smartest or this or that or the other. No. Don't ever be that. Recognize when you've reached your level of incompetence. Be humble. Be willing to ask for help. There's no shame in it. You know, you see a drowning man, he's asking for help. Do you laugh at him? Do you say, oh, look at that pathetic fool, he's drowning and he's asking for help? No, you never do that. Of course not. What do you do when a man is drowning and asks for help? You reach out. You reach out and you give him your hand and you pull him up. And once he's saved, you know, what do you say? Do you mock him? No, you say, are you all right, buddy? And what does he say? He says, thank you. And he moves on with his life, right? Right. That's what's going to happen. If you reach your level of incompetence and you ask for help with humility, people will help you and they will help you overcome these obstacles, and you will grow as a man because of it, and you will reach greater heights because of this, okay? Because that's the way of life. And that's why life is so wonderful, because the obstacle that you bump up against, it's just a momentary obstacle, so long as you are humble.